Modern women tutorials. Alpha males hit the wall at 45. Because there's the whole thing of ladies hit the wall at 30, and a lot of ladies like to think they're like, oh, guys hit the wall too at 30. It's like, no, not really. But a lot of guys out there, especially in these red pill podcasts, they try to give the idea that guys have no limits, right? That there is no wall for a guy, and it's like that's actually incorrect. There's a wall, but it tends to hit the so-called alpha males, right? These red pill guys more than it does guys in general. So there's a wall, but for a certain type, because it's the same thing for why there's a wall for females, right? There's the biological wall, right? But there's also the looks wall, right? So typically, chicks when they're not in their 20s, they tend to start, aging more, right? Start being, in some people's opinion, less attractive. So even though there's tons of hot 40, 50, 60-year-olds out there, but anyway, once the chick is not 30, there's the whole birth, the whole reproduction aspect, but then there's the whole looks aspect where she starts getting some wrinkles, her hair, starts getting whiter, that kind of stuff. So she starts aging more. But I mean, so that's what a lot of people look at when they think of the wall. But for guys, it's, they don't have a limit per se when it comes to looks or capabilities or desirability. What females are attracted to more often than not is materialistic things, less of, the guy's appearance and whatnot. It's more of who he is on the inside and what he does. So what he does is a reflection of who he is on the inside. So if he treats you good, then he's good on the inside. If he's a generous person, he likes to help people, then he's a generous person, right? He's a kind person. He's a giving person, right? And the list goes on. So what he does on the outside is a reflection of who he is on the inside. Which is why a lot of these alpha male dudes that be going around talking about they're alpha males, they're just fuckboys. That's just another way of saying fuckboys. And they're the ones who hit the wall usually around 45. They think they don't, but they do, because they're using fitness and money and even clout, right? Networking and whatnot, and even just the drive to chase women and talk to women and be with women and use that as who they are, like that's their personality, and they use that as like, well, this is what makes me desirable, it makes me popular with the ladies. And that is true to a certain degree. That tends to make you very popular with the ladies in their 20s and some ladies in their 30s. But at some point, you hit, like I said, you hit the wall, which is usually around 45, because you start hitting your stride around 40. But once, after a couple of years of, living your best life, basically the male version of the whole phase, right? Where you're out here with money, chicks in their 20s throwing themselves at you, but eventually it starts going down over time, especially if you're just trying to keep doing the same thing over and over again. You start losing your mojo, right? You start losing momentum because you become less relevant, because somebody else who just turned 40, some new guy who just turned 40, who's in better shape than you, who got more money, and the list goes on, starts replacing you. So then you start losing the leverage you have. Then inflation, especially if your attractiveness, your value to the female gender comes from money. Well, with money getting inflated every year, or every like 6 months, I have them, right? Your money becomes less important, right? Which means you have to make more money in order to be at the same level you was a couple years ago. So because of that, your value decreases, because your value is literally attached to money, right? To the resources, to the things you have. So while you might be like, oh yeah, Lamborghinis are cool, this and that, there, chicks love Lamborghinis. Yeah, for now. But in the next couple of years, it could be a totally different car. It could be like an electric car or solar powered car, right? Totally different. Or it could just not be a car. Chicks might be more interested in, I don't know, vans or something. Or they're more interested if you have an airplane, like having a private jet. It's the real flex. Like, because everybody's gonna be like Ubering, there's gonna be like public transportation is gonna be like self-automated. That's some futuristic thinking. Like in the future, having a nice luxury car ain't gonna be much of a flex when it comes to female gender, right? So that's something to keep in mind, or at least look into, like keep an eye out for. But anyway, so the point is that most of these fuckboys, these so-called alpha males, right? Who tie their, value when it comes to, women liking them is tied to their, right, money, to materialistic things. And they usually tend to have shitty personalities, which the money and cars and status, make up for it for now. But eventually, like I said, time runs out on that stuff. That becomes less important. Chicks start changing their mindset and they're like, yeah, we don't care about money and flashy things. We want to judge a man by who he is on the inside. So if all you did was external, all materialistic thing, which is what your personality was based off of, and then now chicks don't even care about that anymore. They care about who you are on the inside. Then it's like, ooh, I don't have that. I spent so much time and effort getting all the materialistic. So like I said, guys who use their money, their status, and whatnot to get women tend to not get them or even keep them for too long. So that's something that I tend to notice. The guys who tend, because the thing is, with those types of guys, they win at the beginning of life. And once they get their their money up, they tend to get their stuff together and tend to do good for a while, but then start losing that momentum after a couple of years because certain aspects starts decreasing. Their looks, they might get a little lazy, so they slack on their fitness. They, like I said, inflation, so the money becomes less and less important. Even their mindset when it comes to doing certain things, they might not want to interact with females as much. And the list goes on the things that starts to decline, and then a lot of them tend to end up being alone, and most of them be wondering why. And the reason why is because you didn't have personality, right? You had a certain mindset. You created a certain reputation of yourself and a certain persona that was cool, right? You're like in your late 30s, early 40s, but now you're getting really old, and that doesn't fly anymore. Most ladies, especially in their 20s, ain't gonna tolerate, if a guy over 45 years old who acts like, he's super desirable or acts like an asshole or things like that. Who tries to act like he's young, like he can go to clubs and stuff like that. No, because you start looking like grandpa instead of a high value man like these alphas like to call themselves. Certain facts of that. Like I said, the appearance and the aesthetics and the fun, the entertaining, the bad boy image and all that stuff, like all that alpha shit, right? It has a time limit. It eventually fades away, and it no longer is appealing. Not from you, not from like the guy, the 45-year-old dude, right? It'll start being more, it'll still be a thing among younger guys, right? Under the age of 45. So that's important to understand that the personality lasts longer, right? Because your body has limits. Even your money has limits. Even your popularity, your relevance, and that's what becomes limit. Because somebody else will be more relevant. Somebody else will be more popular. There might be a point where it's less cool to be the CEO of a company, right? Or having money and expensive stuff. And it might be cool to be very smart, right? To be like a nerd or something. Having hobbies and stuff. So the sexual marketplace can drastically change, where it's cool to be a square, as they say back in the day. It's cool to be a square. It's cool to be nerdy. It's cool to be a nice guy. Right now, I'm noticing there's a trend where simps are becoming the new alpha, as it were, the new thing. So there's podcasts popping up about simps and stuff. So that's gonna be interesting to see in the next couple of years. And so, what are the exceptions to that, right? What are the ones who guys over 45 that will still, have options, will still be able to be popular with the ladies and stuff like that? Those will be the beta males, right? The nice guys, the good guys, right? They're more likely to last longer and be able to still get ladies who will be interested in them because they have personality. So how they act, how they behave, how they treat women will start mattering. And that's the difference. It goes to the whole alpha males, right? The bad boys, the fuck boys, and stuff like that, right? They win early in the game, but they lose late in the game. While the good guys, right? The good guys finish last concept. They're the ones who will win at the end. And it's better to be the guy at the end, right? Who's still, reaping the rewards of his hard work and whatnot. And, at least he's not alone. You got people who care for him. And it's better to be, old, right? Close to dying with a good woman by your side, or multiple women, than to be old, about to die, and alone because no one wants to be with you because you're an asshole. That's your reputation as the alpha male, right? So you end up being a loner. After you had your whole fun and stuff like that, you end up being a loner. Which ironically, the whole alpha male thing, it's the male equivalent to chicks in their 20s, doing their whole phase, and then they hit the wall, which is 30. And then they're like, oh, nobody wants me. Oh my God, life is hard, blah, blah, blah. Why isn't it easy like it used to be in my 20s? And then, right, that same thing happens to a lot of these alpha male guys when they hit 45. That's their version of hitting the wall. At 45, they can't get the attention that they used to be able to get. They can't, get away with a lot of stuff they used to be able to get with. Because now, they're old, grumpy, complaining that people ain't respecting them anymore, that they're not cool anymore, that people are not looking up to them anymore. Like, well, yeah, because you used to be in shape, you used to have money, your money used to matter, right? At a certain time before inflation, right? You had a nice lifestyle, but things have changed, and you haven't. You're still trying to be that alpha male dude, that bad boy, and that gets played out after a while. Right? Might take a couple years to get played out, but it gets played out eventually. And there's gonna be some new guys, and those guys are gonna be cool and awesome, and they're gonna be the ones that chicks are gonna want. And they're the ones that are gonna have the options, right? They're gonna be the new alphas. That's the thing. You can only be number one, but for so long.